Hey everyone, we're out in our 1992 Acura NSX. This is one of, I think, anybody in our generation, Joel and I are 41, favorite cars. This would have been a dream car back in the day, and this is definitely an example that's in dream car condition. 59,220 kilometers, approximately 36,000 miles. Berlina black with a black interior, with a very well-known history from day one. This car was sold new in Saskatoon. It didn't go on the road until 1994, which would lead us to believe that for the first 2 years it stayed in the dealer inventory as a dealer principal's car. It was super common back then, as the cars came out in 1991. 94 it was sold to its first registered owner and stayed with in Saskatoon until 2018, and then in 2018 it was bought by a general manager of a Mercedes-Benz dealership in his personal collection, and he ended up selling it to us ultimately after using it for 2 years. In his ownership, he went through a few of the major items which are pretty common maintenance items that you need to do with these cars, which was the timing belt, the water pump, brake fluid flush, all new spark plugs. So all that major stuff was done at about 55,000 kilometers. So 5,000 kilometers ago, or 3,000 miles ago. This car is completely original end to end. There's no modifications whatsoever. The underside of the car, we're going to show you in video and in pictures. It's truly incredible. You can tell the car has not seen one day of inclement weather. I actually feel a little bit guilty being even on a moist road right now, because I know we're probably one of the first to have it in any level of moisture, but everything underneath has the original markings, all the red, yellow, and blue markings on all the bolts throughout the building process that are the quality control markings that Acura would have put on this car when it was new. So it has all that. It has the original keys that it would have come with. I don't think we have the titanium key, but we have 2 keys here. We have an original owner's manual. Condition-wise on this car is really, really, really good. There's some areas on any car that show signs of wear: steering wheel, shift knobs, center consoles, that kind of stuff are generally the places where you see the most amount of wear and tear. And this one just doesn't have any of those markings. The interior condition is probably one of the most impressive things about this car is there's no marks on any of the seat surfaces. The seat bolsters and whatnot are super clean. Doesn't look like somebody fell into the car every time they got in and out of it. So it's in remarkably clean condition. We just had the sound system fixed. There's a notorious problem with these cars. There's a notorious problem, I think it was with the amplifier. I'll double check and we'll make sure we include any of those records for you. But we have a completely documented service history with the car, so there's no unknowns that you need to consider if you're buying the car. I think almost all of them are going to need the work that we did, that was done by the previous owner. But looking on all the switches and everything, the only slight difference is on the tune AM FM. You can see the white there is just slightly worn. Other than that, everything, all the switch work and dash, door panels, everything is in remarkably good condition. These are one of the most fun cars to drive. I think anytime you drive a now 30-year-old sports car, and I'm the Ferrari 348 TBs or TS, the Porsche 911s, and cars like this, it's pretty impressive how far ahead of its time these NSXs were, and I think that's why so many people love them. We have a client here in town. He's had 2 of this generation. He has 2 of the new generation, and he put 250,000 kilometers on his last 91 NSX and literally had no problems. They're notorious for eating tires. That's just sort of par for the course. I think in 92, and I may stand corrected, they changed a little bit of the suspension geometry so that it would not eat as many tires. And NSX Prime, such a good website for the changes by model year, so you can see everything that changed each year. So if you're curious about NSX history or any details, that's a great website. We use it all the time. Each one of these cars is numbered with a serial number in the door sill. These door sills are in perfect conditions. There's no sign of wear and tear on any of the door sills, which is a big issue with low cars. Generally people get in and out, drag their feet across if they're not careful, and you end up with a door rubber that's all torn and a door sill that has shoe marks on it from one end to the other. This one just doesn't have any of that, so you can tell it had some careful ownership. I love the sound of these cars. They have just enough throat in their exhaust note that you absolutely enjoy them, but they're not too loud. I think it's one of the most tame supercars from back in the day that you could ever buy. Like driving other cars that maybe were more expensive, like the Testarossas and whatnot, I don't find as enjoyable. I think these are just so enjoyable. They're not a challenge to drive. They have enough feedback in the steering. You have enough involvement with the shifting and whatnot that they're super fun to drive, and they're super reliable. Nice thing about this car is you can get in it, you can drive it across the country, and you know it's going to get there without issue if it breaks down. It's not difficult to find a dealer that can repair them. So of all the older modern classics, I think this is one definitely to consider. I think it was way ahead of its time in body style and design. I think in 91 it took the world by surprise how crazy Acura went with a mid-engine, or I guess it was Honda ultimately.
Yeah, and all aluminum too, right? Entire body was aluminum, aluminum monocoque construction as well. Super light car.
This feels so good.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing, noticing driving them, was that maybe you're used to driving a 911 or something else maybe from this era that makes its power starting at a lower RPM, whereas this car, which you guys will see when we take it on the highways, it sounds all right. The motor sounds almost like a little bit on the rough side and lower RPM when you're moving from 2,000 RPM up to about 5, and then you get to 5,000 RPM and it starts coming alive. I think the VTEC technology starts doing its thing, and then it smooths out and starts making a lot more power between 5,000 and nearly the 80. I think it's an 8,200 RPM red line. So the transmission feels, I think it'd be doing a disservice saying it feels like a Honda Accord transmission, but it's like buttery smooth with very distinguishable shift gates. The clutch again doesn't feel, that is similar I think into a Porsche, where it's very drivable and it's not a big heavy clutch with a very specific engagement point. It's like Tim was saying, it's extremely fun to drive and very easy to drive. Talking about the steering, these cars in the early cars, and I believe in the later models, they added a slight power assist, but these are a manual gear or steering box, so you do feel a lot of the road, the turn in, and your overall connection with the steering of the car is very accurate. And put that together with the position being a mid-engine car and feeling very forward as far as position in the car and close to the nose, you feel like you're over top of the tires and steering it like a go-kart. It's pretty cool.
Seating position reminds me a lot of the Ferrari Dinos, how you sort of sit here and you just see your fender hips. Good chance to get on the highway and go through the gears.
We've got some heavy traffic here. I'm just going to pause the video and wait for all the traffic to go by. We'll pull over at this light, wait for a red light to come, and then we'll be right back.
Man, do I love this car. It feels so planted.
How fast are we going?
100 kilometers. It sounds good, feels good. It's just so tight. Like, you know, we've had a few of these 90s sports cars, supercars, call it what you will. Lately we've driven, the 328 GTS Ferrari from 1989, the 1990 300ZX twin turbo. I had a Ferrari 348 TB Coupe. A lot of the cars from that generation that were meant to be the latest and the greatest. And I think these cars are just so much better than their competition in so many ways. And some will argue, well, it's not a Ferrari. Well, that's the beauty of it. It's not a Ferrari. You don't have to worry about it. It's a car that you can get into and go. It shifts well. It accelerates fast enough. Like, it's not a rocket ship, obviously. In nowadays terms, we get into all these supercars that have just insane power. It's something that you didn't see back in the day, but you can't knock the handling of the NSX. Your weight distribution is so good. Your steering feel is so good.
When you compare it to, I'd say the fun level is the same, but when you kind of put it in the same category that I know you hold, like a 2016 GT4,
yeah,
or an older, like a 997 4S or 2S, where it's like, it's not an insane amount of power. It's not like supercar power, but it's super fun.
Long gears. I love the long-term collectability and value retention that these are having. You've seen an escalation in prices in NSXs over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's guys like us that are driving the value of these cars. As I remember when I started at Mercedes-Benz in '97, and this car was just out of reach for me to ever own. And one of our buddies, too, he bought one, and he was about 25 and was a .com guy and earned a pile of money, and I always was envious that he was able to get one. And now these cars are definitely appreciating because they should. They're an iconic car in so many ways. They put Acura on the map as being a car manufacturer that had design that was killer. I don't know that they've made a whole lot more cars since this one that shared the great designs, but this one definitely is one. And of all the cars I've owned for personal cars, I haven't owned an NSX. And as we've been out driving this one, the consideration of putting this one on the shelf is definitely up there, because it's black, which I don't want a red car. It's got great kilometers or miles on it, but not so low you can't use it. I've had several Porsches over the years that you bought an odometer and there was a car attached to it, and this whole holy grail odometer you keep ruining every time you drive it, and the fun factor in that just went away. I remember my Land Rover Defender 90 that had 3,000 miles on it, and every time I drove it I just hated putting mileage on it. And I had a 911 C4S and 993, same thing. I hated putting mileage on it. This one's low enough that you're proud of the mileage and the condition of the car, but not so low that you're unable to use it. They're just a great car all around. really have very few complaints. If you wanted to upgrade one, you know, the Comtech superchargers and headers and exhaust and stuff is something we've done for guys over the years. It's really easy bolt-on power. So there's lots of flexibility when it comes to making your NSX that much different, that much better, that much more unique. We'll call it what you will, but if you want to put it all back to stock, you can. We've done it several times for different cars over the years. You got one guy that wants it supercharged and the next guy doesn't, so you know, pulling it off isn't difficult. You know, now just driving normally 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers, fifth gear down the highway, it's just a smooth, easy drive. It's not a rigid, you know, knock your teeth out where, you know, you feel like you're in a full-blown sports car. This is a car you could daily drive, no problem, have no issues with reliability or comfort. So I don't know, NSX is a winner for us. If it is for you, reach out. Let's sell you a great car.